for us to all to get together. So we can start, and we have our guest as well. So just starting in a few minutes. Hello. Viewers. It's live. Can't see anyone. Okay, now it is. All right. Just close the door. You see. Okay, great. So today is March the 22nd, 2024, not 2022, 24. And I am Dr. Amir Khan. We're starting this presentation today. So today, folks, we're going to be talking about hypertension. All right, so just wanted to check if it only, we can start our conversation in a few minutes. Getting a few of these technical things kinked out. There's no one there. One person. One five. Okay, good. So today I'm going to be introducing Dr. Anam. And Dr. Anam Latif is a physician who is a graduate from Fatma Jinnah Medical College. And she is going to be talking about hypertension. Dr. Anam, thank you for coming on. And how are you today? Anam, can you hear us? Anam, can you hear us?
Yes, sir, I can hear you.
Okay, share your screen and let's talk.
But can you hear me? I am on unmute.
Yeah, share your screen first. Hi, Anam. This transition is all right. No big deal. We edit it. All right, Anam, how are you today?
Sir, I am good. How about you?
I'm doing good. Fantastic. Let's start. So we got our people, and we'll just start and see how it goes. All right. Good luck. There we go. We want to hear about hypertension from you. Just general principles. Please
Okay.
go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum to all of you. I am Dr. Anam. So today we are going to discuss about the hypertension.
Mhm.
So in our discussion, the sequence would be first we are going to discuss about the incidence of the condition, then the definition, then types, classification, then we will be discussing about the risk factors associated with the condition and what the complaints patient can have and what physician would examine, and then what tests doctor would be doing, and then at the end the treatment options. So the first thing, the incidence of this condition. So according to WHO, an estimated 1.28 billion adults
Mhm.
between the ages of 30 and 80 years worldwide have this condition. And most of them are from the low and middle income countries.
Mm.
According to a studies published in the Pakistan Journal of Medical Sciences, the prevalence of this condition in Pakistan is between 25 and 30% for the adult population. And according to the CDC, 45% of the adults in the US have hypertension. So that means a lot of people are suffering from this disease worldwide and in Pakistan and US also.
That's a
So
lot of
what
people.
is,
That's a lot of
yes.
people. So you're saying about
Mhm.
40, on general, just everywhere, about half of the people now would have hypertension at some stage in their life. So that's a lot of
Yes, that
people,
is quite
right?
a lot.
Okay, so we want to hear more about this. I'm sure everyone else wants to.
So first, what exactly is the hypertension? It is the raised level of blood pressure in the human body. When the blood pressure, the systolic one is raised above 140 millimeter of mercury and the diastolic one is raised above 90 millimeter of mercury, then we label it as hypertension.
Gotcha.
So then comes the types of the hypertension.
Mhm.
There are two types of the hypertension, the primary or essential hypertension and the secondary hypertension. So the primary one is 95% of the cases are suffering from the primary hypertension and it has no like specific cause identified. And then comes the secondary one, that is 5% of the cases, but like they have underlying causes that may be renal, endocrine, or the miscellaneous ones. For example, in the renal, their patient might be suffering from some glomerulonephritis or the adult polycystic kidney disease. The endocrine causes are like he might be suffering from aldosteronism, Cushing's disease, or pheochromocytoma, and the patients in the acromegaly also have the raised blood pressures. And there is the chances that patient may be taking some of the hormone-based drugs like contraceptive pills or steroids for some of their conditions that can lead to raised blood pressure. And then comes the miscellaneous category, like in pregnancy, the blood pressure can be raised. If a patient is suffering from the obstructive sleep apnea, then the blood pressure can be raised. So these lie under the secondary hypertension class.
So let me ask you, I'm just going to play, in between, I'm just going to ask a few questions. So my first question would be, just to everyone at their homes, do you, in your home, do you have a patient who has, or someone in your family, your loved one has hypertension, just in general? Does everyone home come across a patient who has high blood pressure? I guess that's the first question. Or why don't I ask, is there anyone who in their family don't have high blood pressure? Like their parents, they don't have blood pressure. So you say most of them do have blood pressure, but are there anyone who say they have parents and they don't have blood pressure? Does anyone in the family, do I see anyone having that they don't have high blood pressure? I see most of you saying yes. And my scroll is a little different from your scroll, which is interesting because I can't read from here. But see if we could put that scroll up there because I will be able to then see at least. Very interesting. So all of you think that their elders, someone there back. Maya, what about you? Tell us. You see,
About high blood pressure?
yeah.
I know that it actually does run in my own family. My dad actually had a heart attack, like whenever I was a junior in high school, I think.
Yeah.
And I believe on my mom's side, actually, my mother
Same
had
story.
high blood pressure.
So both sides there is blood pressure. How old was your dad when he had a heart attack?
How old was he exactly? I don't know.
Roughly.
He was a junior in high school, so he's what, like 55?
That's very young.
So yeah.
That's very, very young. Having a heart attack at that age, it's so. I'm seeing here most of the people saying, I've yet to see someone say, "Oh, I got parents, and my mom and dad both don't have blood pressure, and they're, let's say, in their mid 60s. Let's say they're forget what I said 50s. I'm gonna say their parents be in their 60s and have. Does anyone have people that they know they're in their 50s and they don't have blood pressure? Let's just say a brother or someone. That's a sort of like a question. What about in 50s someone have no blood pressure? No one's saying anything. Most of them saying yes, they have high blood pressure, but in their 50s and they no blood pressure. Okay, so that means everyone's, I'm seeing, let's say for benefit of doubt right now, 90% of the people we're seeing who are with us right now, they have, their parents have blood pressure. So all of us are very interested to know. When Anam said, oh, all of them have, you can have essential blood pressure. So what would that mean? If I have a question, so for Maya, can a person be in his, let's say in their 20s, 30s, and have blood pressure? In her 20s, 30s, can you be as young as 20 and have blood pressure?
I don't know, honestly.
Yeah, that's a good question. You can, right, Maya, if you have that secondary hypertension.
Some of underlying cause.
Yeah. So that's what she's trying to say. If you could be a young teenager, if you see a teenager and let's say we have you, we say a mature girl, all right, and someone similar age, a football player, a big football player, your age. Who has the chance of having more blood pressure? Who would likely have? I want to hear the guys as well, and then Maya can tell me, and Jeremy. Who has the chance of having more blood pressure? Maya, what do you think? The football guy? You? The girl? Who's, what was I say, fit?
I guess I will say the football player.
Yeah.
But I guess whoever is
You both, that's a good one. It's your age group, you should not be having high blood pressure. Whether it's you or the football player, both of you should not be having high blood pressure. I know they're saying, my friend can't see that. So I think you could put it on, can you put it there? So, because this is not readable. I can see a lot of them saying, okay, seeing their comments. Yeah, just put it up there in the corner. That's better. So enlarge it. Fantastic. That is fine. Because I don't want to see anything else. And I got the rest of the stuff. So actually, both of you shouldn't have high blood pressure.
So it's a trick question.
No, it's a little bit of a trick question, but you can, is what is Anam is saying, if you have secondary hypertension, and that's the main point. Both of you can, and then she's gonna say, well, what is the normal blood pressure range? And I know everyone asks, everyone's got their own cutoff point. But what do you, Anam, what would we say? So the question really is, what is our cutoff for a blood pressure? When does the blood pressure, I want to see what you guys think here. I know there's a bit of an echo, I apologize for that. And thank you for commenting on that, so just letting us know. But what do you think is the cutoff? Anam just gave you some figures just a second ago. Anam, I don't know if you could share that slide one more time again.
Yes,
The
sir,
next
sure.
one, the blood pressure. So what do we think is the cutoff blood pressure? Is it, would we say anything more than, okay, we get more than 120? More than 130? Or more than 140? Which one? Do we have a range? Yeah? Does anyone have a range? Okay. 140, we're getting 140 mostly, right? But it matters. It's not just the question is, it's not just the high one that matters, the systolic. It's actually the lower one as well. They both are very, very relevant. So the one, yes, and some of the are right. Well, let me say this. You guys are all saying 130, some are saying 140, some are saying 120. Which one is right? This is, you're talking about what is called a systolic blood pressure. Systolic blood pressure is the high end blood pressure. So which one is relevant? Now I've got a bit of a story here. Because all of you are, well, it's different, right? And no one knows what the right pressure is.
Well, I want to ask a question because I don't understand honestly the numbers. I know there's a higher one over the lower one, but what do those numbers even mean?
Okay, that's a fantastic question. So basically, Anam, do you want to explain that to Maya? What is a high and a low blood pressure even mean? What is, I know we all are saying systolic versus diastolic, but what does the systolic blood pressure mean, and what does the diastolic blood pressure mean?
Systolic blood pressure is like basically, in simple words, you can say when the heart contracts and pumps blood into your system, the blood pressure recorded with that beat is like in contraction of the heart is like the higher in if you are talking in simple terms, the higher or the systolic blood pressure. And when the heart relaxes after contraction, the blood pressure level recorded at that times is the lower or the diastolic one, as you can see in this picture also, that like this with the systole, like that is like heart is contracting, and in the diastole like the heart is relaxing, and in the systole the heart is pumping the blood, and in the diastole the blood is being filled in the heart. So this is the
Yeah,
higher and
that's
lower blood
brilliant.
pressure.
That's really nice. You gotta think the heart as a pressure cooker. And when the valve is closed, right, it builds up pressure. That pressure that is being built up when the valve is closed is called systolic pressure. And as soon as you open the valve, the pressure releases, right? And it's like a cooker, pressure cooker. When you release the valve, it starts to relax down. That relaxing pressure is called diastolic pressure. Both have to be normal. Both have to be. If one is abnormal, whether it's the systolic or the diastolic, that means that you have a blood pressure issue. And generally, I know you got figures from if your upper one, that is the systolic, is more than 130, and the lower one, which is supposed to be 80, is more than 90, that's abnormal blood pressure. You just have to remember those. So that's very, very relevant. It's like a pressure cooker. Higher pressure, when it throws something out that is ejecting the blood out, that's called systolic, and I beautifully described it. And then the relaxing pressure. It has to relax properly. Because think about it in this way. If your heart doesn't relax, it's gonna, the systolic, the pumping pressure is gonna be even more higher, right? Because it's never going to relax, and that's why it's really relevant. So it's a very nice concept, and I appreciate you and Dr. Anam explaining that. So let's go on to the next slide, and you showed that anything above 140 now we're seeing. 130 is between 130, 140, that's high. Don't consider that normal. But
Yes, sir,
sometimes people
that's
give that a low, low normal or a high normal, as you want to put it. So, but it's abnormal, the systolic pressures, all right? But if you're hovering in the 130s, 140s, they say you definitely have to be concerned about it, okay? So you just say 140, oh my lordy, you're gonna, oh, it's now time to take some action. But it's already stage one when it's more than 130, all right? Anam, please
Yes,
continue.
sir, that's what we are going to discuss in the next slide, like basically the classification depending upon the range of the blood pressure.
Sure.
So that is if the blood pressure is like less than or equal to 120, the systolic one, that is like normal. And if it is less than and equal to 80 diastolic one, that is considered normal. If there is the range of 120 to 139, that is considered pre-hypertension, that is like systolic one. And then the diastolic between 80 and 89 is considered pre-hypertension. The pre-hypertension is like these people are prone to develop hypertension, are at risk of developing hypertension. So at then comes the stage 1 hypertension. So when the blood pressure is raised above 140 until the 159, we are considering it as stage 1 hypertension, systolic one, and diastolic is the range is between 90 and 99. And then the stage 2 hypertension is considered when the systolic blood pressure raised above 160 and the diastolic one is raised above 100 millimeter of mercury.
That's so that means that's pretty high blood pressure, right? That's what,
Yes.
when it starts going to 160 onwards, it's pretty high. Good. All right, Dr. Annam, please continue.
Then we are going to discuss about the hypertensive crisis that includes two conditions. That one is hypertensive urgency and the other is hypertensive emergency. So whenever a person is suffering from chronic hypertension, or he is not like diagnosed as hypertensive, but like his blood pressure is suddenly acutely, you can say, is raised above 180, the systolic one, and 120, the diastolic one, then this leads to either the hypertensive emergency or urgency. So what is the difference? If the blood pressure is raised to 180 by 120 and there is no signs and symptoms of the organ damage, then we are going to consider as hypertensive urgency. Urgency is like treatable in the like as outpatient. We are not going to admit the patient and we can lower it down with the oral medications. But when this level of blood pressure is raised, like the blood pressure is raised to 180, 120 acutely, and the patient is showing the signs and symptoms of the organ damage that we are going to discuss in the later slides, that what are those signs and symptoms, then we are going to admit the patient, and like it's an emergency, we are going to admit the patient in ICU. The intensive monitoring is required, and the IV drugs are given to lower the blood pressure. So these are two conditions.
Very good. Very good.
So then,
Anam.
thank you, sir. Then is there the risk factors that
So,
are.
Can I, before we go to the risk factors, can I just clarify I have a
Yes,
question
sure.
on the urgency versus emergency. So what you're saying, if the blood pressure is more than 180, it's absolutely urgent to treat the patient.
Yes.
Okay? What should one do? That's the question to everyone. I can't see the scroll on mine now. Is it even working? The scrolling? Yeah. Don't make too much changes right now. It becomes so. What should one do if the blood pressure is 180? If you record a blood pressure home and someone's blood pressure in the 180s, what should you do? What's the first step we should do? One of the first steps I'll tell you we should do is make sure you record the blood pressure again. All right, record it times 2 or record it times 3. In fact, when we talk about the number being abnormal 130, make sure that you record the blood pressure on two separate occasions. All right, because it could be that I'm having a stressful day, it's just not my day, and you don't want to label someone 130 blood pressure abnormal, and you can say, oh, you got hypertension, but you do have to record it on at least two separate attempts, all right, or two separate attempts. So we are saying if you have a blood pressure of 180, what can happen to you? What do you think, Maya? What can happen to you if you have what can happen to you if you have a blood pressure of 180? And while I want to see the responses, because some of them are saying, well, let's see what can happen to you, what can happen to one if the blood pressure is 180. Let me see and then I want to hear what Maya thinks as well. What do we think?
I was just thinking, at one point, do you have a heart attack?
Can you have a heart attack? Yes, you can. So yes, you can. And then if with 180 you have, someone else has said you can have a stroke. Very good. And Afshan said a heart attack. Very good. If you have a blood pressure 180 and you start to show signs of chest pain, that's when it becomes an emergency. It's actually a crisis in a way, because that means one of your organs in the body, in this case the heart, is now failing, or they come to so much pressure on it, it can't handle it. It says stop. And that's when it becomes a crisis or an emergency. All right? So chest pain, one of the things you're just saying, is very important. Very good. I've seen a couple of other responses. So what does it mean that what are the other, I guess we know about sign, we know about a symptom. This is a symptom. So what are the other symptoms you can have? And someone said you could be dizzy. What does that indicate? If the blood pressure is 100, 180, and you start feeling dizzy, and there's someone brilliantly said this again. I see few of I'm only seeing comments from few of you. I want to see all of you at least put your name on, so I know that this is, that you guys are participating in this discussion. They should be, right? They all should be asking questions. So this one I see Faiza saying that you could have, if you're feeling dizzy, make sure you're not having brain hemorrhage. Because at 180, that's why with that high blood pressure, your vessel in the brain can pop open. It is. That's why it's all, even if you're not having symptoms, Anam is saying it's an urgency. You've got to lower the blood pressure down somehow. That means whatever you're doing, stop doing it, sit down. Okay? Recording blood pressure nowadays is not that difficult. Anyone can put a cuff on their arm and it should work. It's that simple. So what happens? That's very good. So if you're what happens if you can't see? You're having a blurred vision. What do you think is happening? Guys, if there is blurred, your eyes can't see properly, what's happening? Very good. You can have spots in the vision. You can have a stroke, yes. But what's happening with the eyes? Or my question is, could you become blind? Could you be bleeding into the eyes, at the back of the eyes? Yeah. It's called swelling, and Anam is going to touch on it a little bit more, but you could be having a bleed. Bleeding is very serious in both. And then the main organs, the four main organs, so the heart is the one you want to protect, the brain is the other one you want to protect, the eyes is the one, yes, retinal is called retinal damage, very good, I see that, and retinal hemorrhage, bleeding into it, very good. And then you can, so those three organs and the kidneys are very prone. Kidney damage could result from it. So very important, this business. So if there is anything you take home today, right, beautiful. The other point that someone mentioned is you can also start bleeding from the, so people whose vessels are a little weaker in the nose, they start uh, having bleeding in the nose, yes, or from the nose. By the way, if you see anyone having that, bleeding in the head, you can't control. Bleeding in the vessels, bleeding in the heart, you have to immediately try to lower the blood pressure. But bleeding in the nose, what is the treatment for it? What is the treatment? Yes, that's brilliant. Eyes, kidney, heart, and brain. But what is the, and the Dr. W has said it very well. But what is the treatment for bleeding in nose, from the nose? That's been asked a few times before. No matter what happens, whether you're hit by a ball, by the, some people just have epistaxis. It's called epistaxis. Just start bleeding from the nose. What is the simplest treatment you should do for every time you see, if you see anyone bleeding, right, from the nose? Does anyone know?
I was told to like apply pressure to the nose, and well, at first I was told to lean back, but then people said you can like drown that way. So then really it's to lean forward and apply pressure.
Beautiful, excellent. Absolutely, you should sit forward and apply, and just pinch your nose and hold it together, or apply. And if it's a lot of bleed, just put some gauze on it and just hold it. It will 90% or of time will stop bleeding. Very good. Even if you're having an epistaxis from pulmonary from hemorrhage, that is the high blood pressure related hemorrhage, which can happen, right? You should do that. So the nose one you can control. Now there is the, remember there is the lungs, you can bleed into them. Someone is saying shortness of breath. Of course, you can have shortness of breath, be short of breath because you're having a heart attack, or you could be having bleeding and hemorrhage in the lung as well. So that's why it's a very brilliant point from Dr. Anam. It's just saying, well, yes, beautiful. I see the other thing, pinch the nose, apply pressure and stuff, and yes, you compress the nostrils as well. So fantastic. So just know that if you start seeing symptoms, or see that the patient is now wibbly wobbly, not right, there's something not, you don't hang around. But while you're waiting, right, what are the things we could do? What are the few things we could do for the blood pressure? Anyone? What are the few things you could do while you're waiting for, let's say, the ambulance to come, or you're on your way to take the person to the hospital, or they're starting having outbreaks? What are the things you could do to lower the blood pressure? How about, let me throw this out. Would drinking water help? Cold water, ice water.
I think water always helps when you're experiencing some kind of health crisis.
What if you see the person and he was yelling and he was in stress, and what would you do then?
I guess have them sit down.
Get him away from that stress, distract, show him what's going on. So there is not a lot of things you could do, but relaxing your body so the demand goes down is important. So if they're standing yelling, make them sit down. If they're sitting, perhaps consider have them lie down if it's doable. So position is very important. And then the second important thing, yes, water and cold will help. So you want to make sure that they're not too agitated, and the stress of the stuff is relevant. So that's that. So cool, very good. But there's not a lot. And if they were using any medications, you could perhaps, and a blood pressure medication, you can give them something, right? So that they calm down. Or what about if they missed their dose from the morning, you should ask and say, hey, um, why don't you guys get that medication? What are you on? And give them those doses immediately. Actually, that's also a time when you shouldn't sit around and just do nothing, but just ask about that. Okay, good, very good. We cleared a few of the little. We cleared. Yeah, I like that one. Chocolate helps. That's brilliant. I think anything helps. If it calms you down, then eat it. There's no problem. Chocolate is important too. Very good. Let's have the next one. Next slide. Anam.
Okay. Okay, so now we are going to discuss about the risk factors associated with this condition.
Very
There are
good.
two categories. One is non-modifiable ones, and the other are the modifiable ones. So non-modifiables are advancing age, gender. Males are more prone to develop hypertension. Family history, like if it runs in family, there are more chances of developing the disease. And then coexisting ailments like the diabetes, and then comes the modifiable ones, that is like sedentary lifestyle, smoking, obesity, that is BMI more than 30. We are going to discuss about the BMI in a bit detail in the later slide. Then is high alcohol intake and the stress. So these are the things that we can modify to lower down the blood pressure or to control the blood pressure. So this, as you can see in this picture, same factors are there.
Very good.
So why is it important to treat? As already discussed by the Dr. Khan, that it can lead to damage to your heart, your brain, your eyes, and your kidneys and your arteries. So these are the main organs that are going to be damaged if the blood pressure is not under control. So first, the heart, it can lead to the hypertrophy of the heart that leads to the heart attack and the heart failure. Then in the brain, there might be the stroke or the transient ischemic attack. It can lead to development of the chronic kidney disease, peripheral arterial disease, and the retinopathy. So now the symptoms that already we have discussed a bit, that it can be that the blood pressure is raised, but the patient is having no complaints at all. So it is one of the silent killers. So the other thing the patient might experience is the dizziness, fatigue, the headaches, blurred vision, chest pain, palpitation, shortness of breath, nosebleeds. So these are some of the symptoms that patient can complain of.
Very nice. So you don't want to have these symptoms with the high blood pressure. Excellent.
So when you are going to visit the doctor, what he is going to look for? So first thing, that he is going to record your blood pressure, and there is that he is going to take the two separate measurements as already mentioned by Dr. Khan also. Then he is going to look at your eyes and do the retinoscopy,
So this is when you
because
go into a routine examination, right? They're going to look for these things. If you go to the doctor, then the doctor is going to look for, are there already some damages that have occurred with blood pressure? Okay, excellent. We get
so
that.
this is the slide that
Mhm.
is like showing that what is happening in your eyes. So basically, first there is narrowing of the vessels, then there is development of the hemorrhages, like your eyes might start bleeding inside, and then there is development of swelling. There is a cup-shaped structure in the eye that leads to the later blurring of your vision. So then he is going to calculate your BMI, look at your BMI. That is relevant, like because high BMI is the one of the risk factor for the this hypertension, like if your weight is not under limits. So he is going to look for the swelling in your legs, because the raised blood pressure leads to the edema or the collection of the fluid, in simple terms, in your legs. So, what are the investigations or tests a doctor would be ordering? That are ECG, urine analysis. He's going to order for the blood glucose, electrolytes, GFR, and the lipid profile. And we can also test the urine albumin excretion to look for the damage to the kidneys. And there might be the some specific tests to look for the specific causes for the secondary hypertension, as mentioned earlier, that some hormonal imbalances or some kidney conditions. So now at the end, we are going to discuss about the treatment. So first is like what is the goal? Like we are going to discuss like to which level we are going to lower the blood pressure. Then what are the lifestyle modifications that are important, and then at the end a bit of the pharmacological treatment.
Mm. Okay.
So the goal is that we are going to lower the blood pressure below 140, the systolic, and below 90, the diastolic one. But if the patient is suffering from some other condition also, like either diabetes or CKD, then we are going to lower the blood pressure below 130, the systolic one, and the 80, the diastolic one. These are the now the lifestyle modifications that are required, like for the blood pressure control.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the most important factor is the weight reduction.
Mm.
So we need to maintain the BMI, that is body mass index, between 18 and 24 uh, kilograms per meter square. Like I'm going to discuss about this in the next slide. And this reduction in weight can lower your blood pressure between 5 to 20 millimeter of mercury. So like it is one of the important factors to control the blood pressure. Then we are going to discuss about the dietary plan that is required, and the physical activities that is helping in controlling the blood pressure. And then at the end there is like we have to limit the alcohol intake also. All these factors can lower the blood pressure between 5 to maximum like 20 millimeter of mercury.
Very nice. Okay, let's talk about diet. Oh, sorry,
So
BMI.
first BMI. So BMI is basically it is going to tell that whether your body weight is appropriate as per your height. So it is in simple terms calculated by dividing your weight and height. So if weight is in kilograms, we are going to take the height in centimeters, and but if we are taking the weight in pounds, we are going to look at the height in feet and inches. So this is the chart. It is showing both, like in this side it is showing the height in feet and inches, and this is the weight in pounds, and this side it's just showing the height in sorry weight in kilograms and height in centimeters. So like let's say if your height is 5 by 2 inches and your weight is around 125, so like you are in the healthy weight category. So everyone can like just have a look and look like where are you guys lying in which category. So we need to maintain this 18.5 till 25. That is the healthy weight range to like control our blood pressure. So if we are exceeding the 25, we are at risk of developing the hypertension. So you can also look at this the picture, and it's showing the same thing, that if it's below 18.5, it's underweight. 18.5 and 24.9, that is like healthy range. Then 25 to 29 is overweight, and we label someone obese when the BMI is more than 30. And if it's more than 40, we are going to label it as severely obese.
Okay, so that's very nice. So I guess my question would be here to everyone. Do you all know what your BMI is? Or who, and if they do or they don't, they just need to type it. I only have right now, well, let me see who does know. The only one said we don't know. So why have a look at the graph, look at your height, and then and see where your weight is with that. Should all know, guys. How could you not know your BMI? What does BMI stand for, Anam?
It's body mass index.
Body mass index.
So
let me see
basically,
how
like,
many yeses and how many nos. Because if only the doctors are going to say yes, then that's not good. But we should, first step is to know, are we, where do we, are we overweight or not? Are we really? So I only have 4 responses right now. There's how many? 10, 20 people. There's got to be more. Okay, I can understand the few of you saying, okay, there. But I want to know, okay. So someone said yes. Someone said, I don't know who prime billing is. That's a good one. The prime billing said it doesn't know. That helps. The prime billing doesn't know the weight, the BMI. That's good, right? I like that one. Okay. So you need to know your height. What do you need to know? Your height, and you need to know your weight. That's the first step. You know, a lot of people talk about lean body mass. All of the diet talk right now is about your lean mass. Lean mass is, what's lean body mass? Maya, Jeremy, do you know? What's a lean mass? You're into exercising and stuff. Oh, so someone is only one has said that they mentioned their BMI. No one has mentioned their BMI. Which I can understand. You don't need to disclose it, or don't need to mention it.
You're over.
Are you? Are you really?
I'm
Jeremy
not-
says
I'm not even on this chart.
you're not on the chart. you're the classic skinny model girls nowadays. They're all
But even my height is not even on the chart. I'm not even 4'10".
okay. So the chart needs to be expanded, and that's a good excuse. Okay, but yeah.
Regardless, I know I'm underweight.
Okay, you're underweight.
Yeah.
A lot of models are underweight, by the way. The classic. Some teens are underweight because they get, but that's an issue. But the chances of having blood pressure is lower in the underweights than in the overweights.
Mm-hmm.
So I was to say, lean body mass is when we minus the fat from the body. What is your muscle and your bone mass? That's called the lean body mass. So anything above that is your percentage that has the fat on it. All right. On average, a person has something around. How much of fat do we have? How much of fat do we generally have? On an average person, does anyone know? Let's see the figures. How much fat do you think? How much fat do we should have, and it doesn't appear anything, or it doesn't start coming up at the waist?
Around 18, I think.
Yeah. So Jeremy says 18%. He's of your total body mass. Let's say you have a lean body mass. Lean body mass is like clean meat, right? It's like clean meat. When you buy your meat, you don't want any fat on it.
Right.
You ask, I don't want any fat.
Yeah.
With the fat causes problems, right? And the lean meat plus the 18%, let's say 18% of the total of your lean body mass, right, is your body fat composition, and that becomes the total BMI, body mass index. It's lean body mass and then that. And then if I ask how many of you know your lean body mass, I bet they're not gonna say no way. It's also calculated the same way, right? But you have to know your fat composition. All right. Just as a ballpark figure, if Jeremy is right, it's about between 15 to 18%. And athletes generally run at about so very, very active people, their body mass, their fat percentage is about 12%. And bodybuilders, that are really watching their diet, their fat is generally less than 10%, and it falls in 8 or lower. They target different, so all of them target a little bit different. So yes, and then in males in that, and if it starts going above that 20%, you start seeing visibly fat on your body, and that's what you gotta target. We got Ramadan is probably a fasting month, one of the best times to get rid of your fat. It really is. If you watch your diet and you control what you're doing, you could do that. But perhaps we will discuss that a little bit in a second. So, but on the BMI, right, Anam? The BMI, you have to all know your BMI. You should. That's the first step. Start knowing. That means you will only know your BMI if you do what daily? If you start doing what? What do you have to know to do yourself to know that? You have to start weighing yourself. This and the easiest thing is to put a weighing scale in your. Where would you put a? Where do you have your weighing scale?
I feel like everyone puts it in the bathroom.
You have it in your bathroom, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Jeremy, you too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It,
Or you close your eyes and you say, "I'm not having one. I'm not gonna put one in anywhere. I'm closing my eyes. I'm just gonna be free for a minute, right? Just not have a weighing scale in the house." So that means blood pressure, weighing scale in the house. If you close your eyes and stuff, it's an issue, guys. It's a problem. Okay. All right. Well, I haven't heard from a few of other people, but we'll do an attendance next time. So let's just talk about the weighing scale and stuff. I have another little question. I know Anam is gonna go on to the next slide. I want to know, while she's presenting, how many of you, when you go and buy stuff, look at the label. Look at the label. When you buy what you're buying. This is related. Now we're saying blood pressure is related to your weight, because we haven't got a weighing scale, so I'm not going to worry about how much I weigh. Then how much I weigh is going to directly impact my blood pressure. And then what about my diet? So I want to say, how many of you, when you go out and you look at the label? So Anam is going to touch on that for a second, and then I'm going to see how many do we have a response here. Go on, Anam, show us the next slide, because that's very, very important. I know you. No, I don't want to look at the label saying, "Oh, it's chocolate. Oh, I'm buying." What's your favorite food?
My favorite food?
Yeah.
Pizza.
Oh, pizza,
Pasta.
pizza and pasta. Jeremy, what about yours? What?
the spicy Chinese.
Chinese food? I bet I knew you were gonna say that. Chinese spicy food. We have nice there's parathas. That's a very. Do you know what a paratha is?
I think I do.
No. So to explain, parathas are very hot. It's like a pizza.
Okay.
We eat it. A lot of people will eat it during the morning. That is the sehri time. And it's the bread is made of flour and bread, but they put oil around it, and it tastes very yummy. And I like the aloo paratha. So they put a layer of aloo and potatoes in it, and it tastes even yummier. All right, it's a really dish, and a lot of people will eat that. Will have their tea with it, or they will have a bit of curry with it. So paratha is very, very popular during the morning. Rightly so, because it stays in your stomach longer. It's full of carbs. It's a very carby drink, very carby food, and it's got oil and other stuff on it as well. So people love it. And when you're fasting, where our aim is not to try to lose weight, but our aim is generally just maintain your lifestyle and do whatever you're doing and just maintain the weight. But we end up gaining weight a lot of times. That's what happens. And then there are some very particularly. Do you know what a pakora is? Pakora. Have you heard of a pakora? It's
I've I know like Desi Indian food just by the way it looks rather than the names.
All right. Yeah. Do you know, Jamie, what a samosa is?
Yeah, I like that's probably about it. I know what a samosa is.
You know a samosa. Okay, grand. What's a samosa?
The little pocket either of like vegetables or
The
meat.
pasty. It's like a pasty filled of vegetables. Well, okay, good. There's a fantastic. Yeah, and there's one of the beautiful comments I was looking for is desi ghee. Do you know what desi ghee
I
is?
don't think so.
Oh God. So Anam, what's desi ghee? Come on, explain it to Anam, to Maya, because she wants to know. All of the parathas and everything are made with these desi ghee. Anam, what's desi ghee?
So like I can't explain it exactly.
So it's basically it's butter. It's like a butter. It's an extract from milk, and all of the fat is taken to one side. It's beautifully pasted, and then put on the your bread. So it's a fat filled. Now it's important. Don't that diet that it gives a lot of energy, and it's in the old days, back here, even here farming is different, right? But back home, the farmers used to use a wooden sledge and stuff, put it on their back, and they used to plow with that. They didn't have a tractor, they didn't have a motorcycle or anything to help do it.
Cows?
Very good point. Some you could either use cows, and they were there, animals, some, but the poorest people, some who didn't even have an animal to do it, they used to physically do that. And their wives used to bring food during their lunchtime, and that had desi ghee on it. It was really, but they needed it because they were in 40 degrees, hot weather, and plowing their fields manually. What's that?
I see you said 40 degrees, and I think Fahrenheit because I'm American.
Right
So
now,
you
the
said 40
centigrade.
degrees, and I was like, that's cold. But
That's
it
going
says
on
what?
centigrade, 40 centigrade. That's about 100 plus, 105 proper heat. Proper 100 is going to come up to, and it's hot weather, and they needed that fat. They used to burn it fast. But now it's different. The taste is so, people are so used to the taste.
Right.
And the fat content from it, the butter from it, they're used to the butter and the flavor, but they're not working as much.
Right.
So guess what's happening to all of that food?
It just sticks to them.
It sticks to them. That's what's happening.
Yeah.
They're becoming like a obese population. So that's where the issue, that our diets, the parathas, the pakoras, and desi ghees, like they were saying, that's where the issue is. And that's the India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, all of subcontinent issue right now. It's a similar issue here. Eating too many.
Yeah, I was gonna say you can here specifically in America we have a large
Pizza population.
Hispanic population,
Uh-huh.
and they eat like that too. You know, they want all their spices, all their flavor, but you know it could be that same thing of like they're not being as active, you know, as before. So
Absolutely, yeah. They even back, we know here, they used to work in the fields, and they still do. The farmers, and they do a lot of manual work and construction. But as long as you're physically working it out, it's good. But the problem becomes when you're not that physical. What is this diet gonna do to you? And that's where the issue is. Anam is gonna talk about this, and I would love to hear what she's gonna say about this. But everyone else was saying we can't fast without. Oh, someone said I have to have paratha, otherwise I cannot live fast. I'm not fasting if I don't get my paratha, and that's reasonable. As I say, okay, depends on if you're skinny, right? If your BMI is good, I'm going to say, okay, if you know your BMI and you're good, then it's all right to have that paratha and the food, and you're not gonna. But when is it a problem? When your BMI is high and you're obese, the diet is the number one problem. That's the biggest problem. Right. So some is say, okay, there is a problem with the parathas here. Here they have problems with what? Okay, all the processed food,
Chemicals.
the chemicals. That's the problem here. What are the foods, for example, right? Go on, Maya. What is the foods you think?
Fast food. When I think of America, I think of fast food.
All fast food. Jeremy, what about now in China? What's happening there, my friend? What's happened to the Chinese diet? All the good diet is gone. Is now.
We eat McDonald's and KFCs as well. Even back in China, that's the truth. And we, all the youngs like to having the hot pot.
They want to have what?
The hot pot is like a large dishes with the cow oils in there and spicy and everything, and we just put the meat and everything into it.
On the fried food.
No, it's just not fried. It's just put it inside it.
Okay. So where's the Chinese food gone? Where's the good Chinese food gone? Is all gone? Don't want to eat it.
To United States.
It's not in United States, buddy.
Yeah.
You're picking up more like desi food. That's the sound of it. It's not even McDonald's food or anything.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay, good. So,
And Hamza said high fructose corn syrup. Yeah.
yeah, I agree with that. All right, Anam, go and walk us through the diet a little bit. Let's have a look at diet. It's very, very critical. Guys, I asked everyone, the question is, who looks at the labels when they buy food? Not a single person gave me a response. I'm assuming you're going to say no one does. Is that true, or is that the case? Is that no one looking at the label, or do some? Just give me one person say yes. I always look at the label when I buy food. The label on the food, if there is any. Whether it's sweets, whether it's chocolates, whether it's anything. I know parathas and these foods don't have any labels on them, but no, unfortunately they don't. Sorry, Maya. I know you're looking at me like that. They gave the food, and all of them. No one knows any idea about the what are the calories. That means no one. If I ask right now, I bet first of all, I'm glad to see there are about 3, 4, 5 people saying, so far 4 people have just said, which is, I don't know how many, 20, 30, 20 people or 25 people saying, yes, we do. But if I ask, okay, we got 5 now. If I ask does anyone count their calories? It's gonna be I'd be surprised if I go above 5%. If that ratio is more than 5, if someone counts their calories a day or has a rough idea about the calories, that person will get a prize. Honestly. Jeremy is laughing. I know he's saying, I'm not counting my calories. Right? Someone's gonna, I sometimes do. I like, oh yeah, I do at times. But does anyone look at their caloric intake or something? Be honest. Oh, we got someone saying yes. Oh, they watch their calories. And when we're gonna ask how many calories, okay, we're not gonna ask how many. So go on, Maya.
How many calories are you supposed to have in a day?
Ah, that's a good question, because that's the main question. You cannot lose weight if you, first of all, don't calculate how many calories you need in a day. If you go over, you're gaining weight. If you're going more caloric, it's all right to eat. Yeah, I like this. I've got a few responses now. As I say, someone said, so far I'm looking for a yes. Someone said, sometimes. I like that one. Occasionally. And then someone saying, okay. But that's good. At least we have an idea, have had a discussion that should we count our calories? Should we count calories? Then. So someone told me, if I start counting calories, my life is boring. I can't enjoy my food. It's true. Who wants to count their calories?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll besides that, Anam, go and finish. Tell us a little bit about the diet, and then I want to ask about all of the folks. Should we? First of all, we know that the take-home message today is we should weigh ourselves. We should, that's a take-home message. We should. It's not. It's never good that you stop looking at your weight. Number two, we should know our BMI, where we should be. And then the third question, which is very important, is we should know roughly what is calories. I mean, if you've got this, you should know roughly. These are the basic, essential things. Calories and stuff. So, all right, good. So let's have Anam finish because it's running over and it's gone really long already. Anam, I told you, Anam, Dr. Anam had a very long, even longer than this presentation. And I said, Anam, we gotta ask them a few little questions on the one. So show us the next one, okay?
Yes. So this is the DASH diet. DASH stands for basically the dietary approaches to stop hypertension. It basically includes the foods that are rich in diet plan that is rich in basically fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and low fat dairy foods. And it includes meat, fish, basically the protein, and the nuts and beans, and limited in sugar, sweetened foods and beverages, red meat, and added fats. So as like this picture shows, more protein, vegetables, fruits, whole grain, and low fat dairy can be taken. Like this is the diet that you should be incorporating to like lower down your blood pressure or to make it under control. So now this is what Dr. Khan was talking about, that we should start getting a bit more conscious about the food we are consuming. And every time we are going to buy something, we should be looking at the labels. So what it actually contains and what are the like caloric count of the ingredients. So like we should start getting more conscious.
So of this label, if I ask you, Anam, a question, or I ask, you've got there, let me read out what's on the label. Energy, this is a pack that is showing 100 grams of the substance. It has energy, let's say energy is calories, fat, fat or it's how much fat in grams, it's showing that. It's showing carbohydrates, and it's showing protein, fiber, and salt. There's 7 things in this. Which is the most important thing if you have blood pressure?
Salt.
Let me ask everyone else. Let me send everyone else, see what their response is. What is the most important? So Anam thinks it's salt. Okay. Anam thinks it's salt. Is it really? Why is salt? We haven't discussed salt yet. Why is salt even? Salt has sodium in it. Why is that even relevant? What about the fat or the carbs? How you're talking about BMI, weight, and everything. Jeremy, what do you think? Why is the salt? There's 5, 6, a few of them saying salt. Only one said fat, and only one said could be others, which is potassium. But why they're all leaning towards salt intake?
I don't know, but all I do know is when my dad did have a heart attack, my mom stopped putting salt on our food, and I was upset. I was like,
Yeah.
I can have salt. I don't have a heart attack.
Right? And she stopped it for everyone, right? Yeah. So very good. So salt is actually, yeah, they're right, all of them, because everyone knows intuitively sodium matters. Actually, it's the sodium that is relevant. Okay? And there is a very logical science to it. Sodium, just think of it, salt draws water, and that can elevate your blood pressure. And a lot of mechanisms happen in the kidney, And in the kidney, the aim is that you want to have salt being excreted from the body so it doesn't draw water. And then, especially when when you start gaining more weight on top of what you have, water retention, you're gaining even more weight. The blood pressure becomes even more higher. So on a basic get-go level, you need to watch how much salt that you take. Okay, is that right, Anam?
Yes. So, at the end, these are like some of the exercises that are going to help in reducing like your weight and making your under control your blood pressure, that like walking, cycling, yoga, swimming, etc., breathing exercises. Even meditation helps to lower the stress levels and making the blood pressure lower.
Yeah. So on
And
average, before we go that, you have to watch your salt. Just go back on your label. I know you went very fast with the label. Just go back. I just want to go over this one more time. How much salt are we allowed to have? How much salt is there on the label?
1.7 grams.
1.7 grams. How much of salt are we allowed to have in a day? Who's going to tell me? That's like 1.7 grams. Is that pretty salty? Yeah? Anam, what do you think?
sir, it's like mentioned here, like reduce it to 2400 milligram per day.
24, roughly about 2,000 milligrams, about 2 gram of salt.
Yes.
2 grams, so 1.7 is kind of high.
It's not kind of high, it's pretty high. So you want to have you're going to have 2,000 milligrams. Yeah, that's the issue. So you can have about you can have, the range varies, 2,000 to 3,000 is all right. 3 grams is okay, 3.5 grams is okay, or you could take it. But you can't, then you start are going, if you have high blood pressure, you start having you can have issues with that. So now you got to look at your label, and then if you're taking blood pressure pills, what's the science behind it if you can't? So that's why watching your sodium intake is very good. You have to know your normal value. If I don't know my normal value, how much I need, I could just say, oh, it's fine. Oh, I'm going to take 1 gram, or have a look how much. Um, okay, we'll have a look at this later on. And we probably need to do a separate little talk about the diet, because this is one of the most important things. Because if you look at this, we need to know how much calories we need in a day, how much calories come from roughly each meal we eat, and what are the sources. So that's going to be a separate little discussion. Let me just sum it up because it's gone already pretty long today. The talk. Anyone has any questions, just type them now, please. Otherwise, type them down, because otherwise I'm just going to say fantastic. Anam, you really presented well. Thank you very much for coming on, and we really appreciate that. And that's why, it was really nice. The slides and everything in very good order. Okay?
Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah, appreciate it. Okay, guys, thank you. Everyone else, I know it's becoming late a little bit. Some of you have to go and do Sari. Others have to open their fast, Maya. So it's still fasting for a lot of people. We didn't talk about, and that's true. Someone said we didn't talk about stress. How is that important? And type A, there's a certain people who are type A personalities. And a lot of time these are business owners, or just some people just get stressed out about little things or have too much on. So this is the thing, one of the things that Mona was discussing earlier, not in this, but before this, that exercising and meditating is very, very important. regular exercise and meditation. Perhaps we'll do this a little bit more, what's the advantages of exercise and meditation. But for the take-home messages for high blood pressure is a little bit different, right? So, but relevant to that is the stress and stuff. I want to thank everyone who's been contributing. I want all of you to at least put your comments in. Some have just disappeared. For example, I know who's not wrote any comments. I wanted all of you to be actively participant in this, because there's no point if you're just sitting there and doing nothing, and you must type in something. So it becomes interactive a little bit. Without that, it's not useful. So, but thank you very much, everyone, and then we'll hopefully see you next week. Okay.